Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is your boy Sean, Puff Comics 83. I am joined by Varangian Vigilante. How are you doing, bro?
Yeah, well, survived the weekend. Very happy that we here now live talking about one of my favorite martial arts, one of my not only martial arts movie, but also one of my favorite sort of history movies of all time. I loved this movie when I watched it for the first time, and I didn't knew back then it was like a roughly cut version because back in the day, this is the old German DVD that I still have that I bought when I was a teenager, which for you young guys that was like late 90s, early 2000s, like long time ago. And they say here beautiful in the background. It's 134 minutes long, but not its 94 minutes version. So they cut all the good story out, and it's basically just an incoherent fighting movie. But I loved the aesthetics and the fight back then. But later, finally, when I saw the full version, fell in love again. And luckily, Eureka did a fantastic 4K scan of the trilogy.
Nice.
And I think this is like the edition to get currently. Absolutely fantastic. And last year, finally rewatched it in an quality that I never thought I would see it, and it's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, this film is like one of those films that we got the VHS of, growing up, because that at the mall they used to have a little section where a guy is selling all his kung fu tapes, and that we would like hang around that area for like hours upon hours because he had a little TV screen, and on the TV screen one day it was Once Upon a Time in China, Jet Li. So I was like, that looks interesting, man. I want to purchase that tape and watch it. And lo and behold, we watched that film, and I can't remember if it was almost similar to your experience with it being a shorter cut, but I remember being hyped with the action scenes and seeing Jet Li in action, just owning the screen, as a Wong Fei Hung, and he just turned out a great performance, and to be truly honest, this is what really kickstarted his career. Like, he was doing films prior, but it was this film that really kickstarted his career in China.
It's an epic, and of course, the international title Once Upon a Time in China clearly was a Leone ripoff. Of course, Once Upon a Time in the West, Once Upon a Time in America. So they want to use it, but actually, I think it totally fits because this really is one of these movies that deals with a culturally very difficult time for China back in the day. And it plays in the 19th century, and back in the day, everybody wanted to have a piece of the cake that was China. Like every European power, naturally, Americans, of course, also the Japanese. Japan never had really good relations with China.
But they have power.
Yeah, and so the movie deals a lot with, of course, on one hand, how China is exploited by foreign powers, but also how China is exploited by internal powers. So this is a very interesting thing about this movie, because it is a lot about values, and in a lot of scenes in this movie we see it that it's this fight of traditionalism against modernism, and basically the message of the movie that I believe is that the traditions without value are worth nothing, as we see that Chinese people sell women into slavery, into prostitution, and on the other hand, we also see that modernity, like this, the modern world without values, is also worth nothing, because all this technology just kills people and does more danger than it does good. And that Wong Fei Hung is, he's a mythical, like he's a folklore hero of China, from the 19th century, being like a martial artist and a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine. So he's like this perfect balance of fighting and healing.
And it's funny how martial arts is like semi outlawed, against the rules, but he still practices it within his clan,
Yeah.
and the authorities has a big hatred for it because everybody look up to him more. Like he's more of an authority figure to the people than the authority are.
Yes, because he's the perfect balance
Yeah,
of traditions and new influences. Like he's
the authority is more adapting to Western culture, using guns and trying to really like set the tone of what they want to do, whereas Wong is trying to hold on to traditional values, and also being that mentor and that wise man, and that's what the movie is like, the big conflict. You got all these Western influences coming in and trying to secretly change everything that they can in the more low-key scan, because they know in the long term they're gonna eventually succumb to change. And he's trying to hold on to the tradition of Chinese culture and values, and it's a struggle throughout the film because even his the girl that he liked, what's up, Sleepy Rita? The girl that he liked had already had an excursion in America.
Everybody loves Rosamund Kwan. Everybody loves her.
Yeah, she's a
She's still hot. She's still hot.
But even she had an excursion to America and brought over their ways of technology.
Yeah, this is I think the movie, especially when you watch like how it was really shot, the 134 minutes version. I think it shows it in a very very well portrayed way, how the modern world conflicts with Chinese traditions, but also, as we have already talked a little bit about in the pre-show, is that it's a Hong Kong movie, and it pretty much also deals with the fears that were present in Hong Kong in the 90s, which nowadays we sadly see these fears realized with the communist Chinese government taking more and more control over Hong Kong, since the British gave it back to China. So it's tough because because in the 90s, of course, there was this fear. On the one hand, with will the British like kill our traditions? Are we already too much Britanized? On the other hand, also we also really don't want to go like the communist China, because it's also not the China we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a constant struggle, and when you have confliction like that, it's in a country that had many dynasties and many emperors that had their own viewpoints on how things should be ran that people didn't agree with. It's tough, going through that struggle, that Chinese people went through, and reading up on some of the history of all the dynasties and stuff like that, you really get a sense that there was never truly any peace in there. Like, even if there was peaceful situations, you had a structure that like kind of tried to hurt that peace, and then you had all these other empires coming in to try and take over a piece of China.
You just perfectly summed up world history.
Yep. And it's funny how this movie was had a whole thing about guns being an important topic.
Yeah.
And this is directed by Sue Hart of Better Tomorrow fame, where guns was a huge part of that film.
Yeah, because as you see, absolutely correct, Damien. Yeah, as you see, of course, when you watch A Better Tomorrow, that John Woo really struggled, how to integrate pistols into to make it like an honorable fight. So he created a heroic bloodshed. And of course, Once Upon a Time in China really deals, with basically kung fu versus guns. And it's also very interesting since other than Wong Fai Hung, we also have the character of Iron West William in there, which is also a martial arts master, but he's like the example that traditions without value are wrong. So he is not fighting honorable.
Yeah, because when we first introduced to him, it's almost as if to say he's just trying to show how strong his style of kung fu is.
Yeah.
And with the iron chest and all, and he has no values. Like, he's more about the competitive nature of his style than he is about not only using that style, but teaching and being more honorable. He is more like, I'm gonna take over your place and turn it into my own school.
Yes, and he also cheats naturally, like.
Yeah. But yeah, he was a great. Like, the movie has like two halves. When you really watch it, it's like the first half is more the battle against the establishment, the government, and Wong trying to maintain his innocence with all this wrongdoing from the Shadow Clan, who are trying to disrupt and get money from the people for protection and stuff. They're going around bullying people. So you have that aspect for it, and then you have the introduction of Yim's character in the second half, that he becomes integrated into the whole thing, and it becomes more of now who's going to be the true bad guy towards the end of the film.
Exactly. It's very interesting, since the film manages to do it so well to combine all the factions into one bigger menace.
Yeah. Especially, you had America versus Europe. You had that little thing going on in the background.
That too, and this was like back then, even though a lot of the international powers, work together in putting China down, there still were power struggles going on in the powers.
The second film is probably the best film, one that I enjoy the most. And I remember when I didn't see Jet Li on the cover of the fourth movie, I was like,
he's not in the fourth one, but I think he's in the.
He's in the last one.
In the last one, but it's
Once Upon a Time in China in America. Yeah.
Yes.
What up, Biggie Shaq?
Yo, Biggie.
Looking forward to tonight's show.
See you later.
Yep. But yeah, like the first three movies to me are the ones that I remember watching, and then the ones without Jet Li were. They were rough.
It's also that here are the first three movies, and it's also as a bonus is the one that plays in America on it. I mean, in general, there are many movies about Wong Fai Hung. Jackie Chan also plays him in a movie, so he's basically. I think somebody wrote it very well. It's if you would have to understand the importance of Wong Fai Hung culturally, you could imagine in America if you would have like 20-30 movies about Teddy Roosevelt going on adventures.
And that shows you the impact that this character had, that he could have had many portrayals, but the one that people think of is Jet Li's version, because that's the one that, to me, he really established that character. Like, you cannot separate him and Jet Li. Like, they go one hand to hand.
And especially the first and the second one, they go hand in hand. I think the second one is so essential to the message of the first one, because in the first one, I hear like a lot of, like, sometimes I know some European outlets back then, they criticized it for being like a nationalist movie, which is interesting because, of course, but also nationalism has so many shades and so many facets. So that's interesting because the second movie deals with the different kinds of nationalism. Because of course, Wong Fai Hung is like a patriot, like is for Chinese traditions. But of course, Donnie Yen is also a patriot, but he has a different solution to things.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I think that, yeah, and so the first and the second one are essential watching in my opinion, because they really just play off each other.
Yeah, I was really hoping to at least try and watch the second one, because like I said, like you perfectly stated, they go hand in hand. They
Yeah.
work well with each other, and Donnie Yen's performance in that film was just top tier. You know,
as an actor, and the final fight in the second. Maybe I think we gotta do another stream for the second movie, because I think that the fight between Donnie Yen and Jet Li is one of the best fights in cinema history.
Yeah, but the first film is still more like that epic scope of what you're seeing in China and what they're going through, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it has comedic scenes in there with his under princesses.
Yeah,
I love Porky though.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But I think that's also like that. Also, these disciples, I think, existed, at least Porky, they existed in real life. So this actually plays well. I mean, of course, you can see that for the European and American characters, it looks like they just picked up the white guys that were around the street. So it's like you don't have the best actors for the.
And they all these movies always got that one white dude who know kung fu. I'm like, so he was practicing back then.
Jonathan is gonna Jackson. Like he's a really despicable character. Yeah.
But yeah, this movie just have so many good things going for it. And I rewatching it, I was like, man, I forgot how long this was. It was like 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I was
it's an epic. It's truly an epic.
It's an epic for sure. But thank God they didn't go into like Leone territory and make it a 4-hour epic. Because I don't know if I could stomach that. You would have to have a lot more kung fu scenes.
Of course, directed by the fantastic Tsui Hark. Like, also, of course, of Better Tomorrow fame. Also one of the best Hong Kong directors ever, even though if he didn't always look eye to eye with John Woo.
And he wasn't slick. I saw that bullet to the head reference.
Yeah. Which also was fantastic to show it's, you have Western technology, but you use them in a traditional way.
Oh, man. Bucktooth is another character.
Yeah.
That, he had an excursion to America
and Kai, like, they played very well. I really liked, especially between 40 and Bucktooth, when they had like this sort of infighting. It's like you're like so Americanized, you got their medicine, but he also went there to see both ways and then to figure out which one is more efficient in which situation.
I like how he struggles to speak his normal language, but he can speak English fluently.
Yeah.
that was an interesting take, because you almost feel like he's doing that on purpose. Like he could speak normal, but he want people to think that he can't speak normal. He struggles. Yeah. But then when he speaks fluent English so well, it's like,
yeah. Unlike Arnold, who can neither speak German or English,
so he combines the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked his development as a character. And one of the actors that's, to me, unsung is Young Bao. He plays Leon Flun.
Yeah, he would later becomes the fourth disciple, because I think he's a very important character in there, because he shows he's like, how to be easily influenced by bad in the first, but also later to find your own way.
Yeah, and I like how he's respectful to both of his masters, even if Yim kind of turned on him to favor the clan. Mm-hmm. But he still had a amount of respect for him.
Yeah, he's clearly like a good-hearted character that is on the search. Like who has not fully developed his character yet, and is out there to look for the truth,
Yeah.
so to speak. Yeah. I also really like the character of the governor, as being like the third force there.
Hmm.
So basically, also like being neither good nor entirely evil.
Yeah, he's like
which
in
most
between.
with most governments.
Like, yeah, he's in between. Like he comes off very brash, and like you're not supposed to like him because of that, because he's always clashing with Wong.
Mhm.
But he comes to his senses at the end, and I'm like, it took you this long?
Well, also that is very realistic, because that's usually how it is with governments. They're the last one to.
But they,
what's going
the
on.
thing is, they were so adamant at taking down Wong's base and stuff. Like they kind of like ignored the clan who was causing all the destruction.
Yeah.
And sometimes you hate to see that type of blind justice, where they're being blind on one side.
Yeah.
But they trying to justify going after one person who's not really responsible for it.
Exactly, and who actually is the only guy who really wants the best outcome for the whole country.
It's crazy, and that's why when you look at these governor type characters, it's like they're always one-sided. They always like to focus on one thing and like try and defend that side instead of being more open-minded.
Exactly. So beautifully realistically portrayed.
Yeah, but that's the government in a nutshell.
Yeah,
they always view their side as the right side.
This is one thing that I think the world can say. This is the same in every culture. Is never trust the government.
But they will turn on you in a heartbeat, and they wouldn't give a damn. One of my favorite scenes early on is how the fight with the clan, the Shalu clan, end up spilling into the governor's dinner. and Wong is trying to stop them from fighting, but they keep fighting, and he got no choice but to take on.
And also so well choreographed. The fights in this movie are, even when you take just one simple like brawl out, it's a magnificent fight. And then when you see like the fights that really matter, they're perfect. Especially the battles between Wong Fai Hung and Iron Vastium.
The true ladder match.
Yeah, the first true ladder match. That is just a sight to behold. So this is the beauty about this movie, is you get a really well crafted movie that deals with the situation of China in the 19th century and adds state-of-the-art martial arts fights to it. You see Jet Li like in his prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you also said in the pre-show, this was the movie that really put him on the map.
It launched his career. It made him a household name in China, and it wasn't going to be long before he got the call to America. and he kicked ass in Lethal Weapon 4. Like, he was the best thing in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Another thing that was interesting about the film is the 13th aunt.
Yes.
Played by Rosamund Pike. And how her and Wong is the same age, but she has seniority status over him because of that title.
Yes, and also like she's not a blood relative aunt. She's like, it's more like the status, and you can clearly see there is a lot of love going on between the two, because of course she's the senior. He can't really make a move.
He can't. And Foon was trying to make a move, because even he has a little thing with her. Yeah. But I was kind of happy that they didn't like dive in on like a love story with that, because he knew his boundaries, she knew her boundaries, and they like kept it at that. But you could tell that there was something there.
Like we can be very happy that Tsui Hark is the director and they didn't take an international director for that one.
Yeah, because they would have tried and shoehorned it, and it would have like ruined the movie.
Also, Rosamund Kwan fantastic in the sequels, and not only in this movie, she really made a mark on Hong Kong cinema. She's also in the in German the Meister des Schwertes, this movies, and just a beautiful, stunning, talented actress.
Yeah. Like, you can't say nothing bad about this cast. I think everybody delivers well.
Yeah, I think she's in the 60s and I still would do her.
Like, one of my favorites is Pork Wing. Like,
Yeah.
every scene he comes in, he always like low key steals it. And one of my favorites is when when they have the performance at the opera setting, and he like, I can sing. I'll join you on stage. As soon as he got on stage, everybody knew it was him, even when he's dressed up with makeup on. They're like, "Oh, Porky."
Yeah, it's the.
But I love how devoted he is to the master. To Wong, and he is a committed apprentice and somebody who looks up to him. That even in defeat, he stands outside his walls, waiting for him to give that order.
Yeah, and I think it also really shows in the penultimate battle, in the big battle with the ladders between Yim and Fai Hang, when he alone, stands against all these clan members with the guns.
Yeah. Like, there are some interesting arcs in the film, with each character, and we get to see some of the characters grow from these arcs, and Porky is one of them. Bucktooth has a little arc, where he comes to the realization that he do value the ways of Wong Fei Hung over the changing ways. And I love the whole film. It's like it's fighting with itself on whether change is good or not. And to me, that's the whole theme of the film. Is this change good? No, do I have to give up my traditional values for this modern sensibilities? Do I need a gun to win a fight when I have my kung fu skills?
There's like also this is like a timeless question, and I'm also a big fan of the quote by Thomas More, who wrote that what is in English again, that tradition is to hand over the flame and not hand over the ashes.
Exactly. And when you really look at what they wanted to do in terms of the foreigners, it was some trickery afoot, with how they got people to go to America.
Yes, and I also really like that this also was a big topic that, in America, not everything as well. And also, they came back also because, of course, how the Chinese were treated in America. And I think that's one of my favorite series that really shows it so well is Deadwood.
Mm-hmm.
And because that was also a part that was a little bit under the rug in a lot of movies, is also like the Chinese part of the Wild West. That's something we only see in a few movies, and which is not a lot mentioned in cinema history. But Deadwood did it really well.
And this movie talks a lot about gold in the West.
Yes.
We're like, is it really gold in America? And that was during the whole thing where, especially in the West Coast of America, huge gold finds. So that was the whole point of like them going over, is because of all the gold that's being found in America. And I like that it's like throughout the film. It's not just something that they drop here and there. They drop it throughout the film. It's the main reason why the Americans are there.
Yes, and of course with the, I think this connection with the U.S. and the West is also so well shown in the West, And in the end of the movie, when you finally figure out, that they're kidnapping like all these poor Chinese women and they're basically selling them into sex slavery. Uh, which also they want to do with Rosamund Squish's 13th aunt when they kidnap her, and then you can really see that how evil these people are. Like,
and again, like they're guilty of it themselves. The Chinese, they're willing to sell their own people, and we see that through. If you look up the history of slavery, that's it happened. People will sell their own cultural people just to get ahead.
Yeah, Hollywood tries to tell another story, but
like I remember when I watched Shaka Zulu and I saw that, I was like, so we black, Africans were selling their own people to get a boost.
Yeah, I think that's the sad part about humanity in a whole, that it doesn't matter which culture, that for money most people would sell like their mother, and this is something very sad, but sadly this is also something very human.
Yeah, it's very indebted to the human culture, the human life, that you're gonna have people out there that do scumbag stuff, and it be your own person, your own friend, your own family member, and it's like a low point, but there's always going to be there. What's up, Kenneth?
Yeah, and this is something I really love about this movie, because it goes into the uncomfortable parts, but not making it a movie that speaks from top of you. It's like it's like it just shows is really splendid story in a world that is like that. It shows like supernatural kung fu in a very realistic world, and I think this is also what makes this movie stand out so much.
I will say that the gang leader of the Shahu,
good Damien.
I will say that the gang leader of the Shahu clan, he's the worst of the worst.
Yes.
Tong, complete scumbag. Like, if you really want to look at a villain in the film, he's number one of the movie.
And he's not the main villain. He's like a minor villain. He's a minor
villain, but he has the most villainous
traits.
And traits that, like, he is the true scumbag of the film.
Yeah,
like, the government has their issues, and you can look at them as villains, but you understand where they come from because of their government leadership and stuff like that. And you can understand Yim and his thing. He wanted to come have his own school.
And you can even understand the British and the Americans, because for them it's just like foreign country they don't care about. But having somebody of your own people selling your own people out, this is the most despicable act somebody can do.
And the crime he was about to commit on 13th Aunt was like, this dude's complete other scumbag, true villain of the film. Yeah,
let's just say for everything he did and tried to do, he got off easy.
Well, like, he got it the worst because of what the girls did to him, and he deserved 100%. They threw his ass in that furnace and locked.
He deserved even more. Like, he still got.
He gonna come out the other end of looking like ashes, because that's what he gonna.
Yeah, but death was too good for him.
But yeah, he to me was the true scumbag of the movie. With the things that he was doing, and it's like, I can hate the governor. I can hate Yim, but I hate him the most because he is doing the worst things that, like, he what Sleepy said, he's the type that will sell his mother to get ahead.
Yeah, and just talking about it is like, this movie is so amazing. I want to watch it immediately again.
Yeah, it's like I love watching the film that really makes me think, and at the same time have great choreography.
Yeah, and this is something what modern movie making often doesn't understand. You can have a movie with a message and an entertaining movie. It's like these two things don't contradict each other.
Yeah, and you have such amazing characters in the film that they keep you hooked throughout it. You know, like we said, Jet Li played phenomenal as Wong Fei Hung, but everybody else kept up, and there was not a boring character in the film.
Yeah,
Because the film really makes you want to learn more about Yim, you know, and his thing. Like, I feel like his character comes in and we get some backstory on him, but it's like I want more because he's such a interesting character for you to throw into the film's second half, and it's like there's some positive with him.
Yeah, this movie really builds on the very long, very epic, and very awesome Chinese history.
And the Chinese history is very, I will say, there's a lot to it, especially with all the dynasties. There's a lot to it, and I was doing some reading on it throughout the week on some of these, the Qing dynasty, which is what this is set in, you know, the later years, and all the foreign trades, the economy, and everything that was going on. And you mentioned it in the back chat, the boxers.
Yeah, the visuals later. Like this movie is even before the whole Boxer Rebellion, which which was devastating for China. Where basically the whole world was like, let's work together and keep China down.
Like there was so much going on to constantly hold down China. It's crazy when you really do the history reading.
Yeah, I was very lucky that when I started history, we got a teacher from China coming here and lecturing Chinese history. So I took 3 courses in Chinese history, and it was so interesting to see it from the Chinese viewpoint. And so this really broadened my horizon. Since there's always, there's always biases, and it doesn't matter on which university you are or what person you ask, it's always something different when you hear from a person that really grew up in a culture.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that, because we didn't have that type of luxury of having somebody come and teach us Chinese history. And I don't think that we probably would have cared, because we like, man, we're doing our own thing and stuff like that. But when you really pay attention and start to do the research, he's like, man, the world is a lot bigger than what you've grown up into, and it's fascinating reading up on a lot of history of other countries.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much stuff that is not mentioned in Western history, just as a very minor side point. The whole fleet of Zheng He, which is also, that he was maybe in America before Columbus, just from the other side. But also how China. How China did business with Africa also, the whole fleet thing is so interesting, and this is, I think, nowadays a little bit more researched, but is still a character that is very unknown in comparison to Christopher Columbus, for example.
And another thing, we see at the beginning of the movie how cultures are different.
Yeah.
With the dragon dance, and how the French store with gunshots and they start shooting. It's like, why are you randomly shooting at something? Because in your mind you think it's gunshots, but you're not really being attacked. You're just hearing these crackling and pops.
Yeah. Also, it's very unrealistic, because when the French hear gunshots, they usually run.
But like that could have been a disaster in itself.
Yeah, that's the fascinating thing, and it's also the sad thing that also like when you study history, you really have to focus on something because you can't be a specialist at everything. Like it's humanly impossible, but everything is so interesting.
And that's what makes doing this show fun, because when we touch on movies like this, there's a lot of history involved.
Yeah.
And having somebody like you who is a known historian, I learned so much from doing these shows from you. I just learned so much from you when you talk about European history and even Chinese history that that even I am oblivious to. Like there's a lot that I need to learn, and it's always fascinating when we do these shows and use movies as a way to continue on history, and we talk about it on both sides.
Yeah, and it's like also I like with a lot of stuff I only know from the surface, because of course I specialist in other stuff like cultural history, for example. So it's it's like I want to know everything, but I can't. And this is sad.
And I do like the fact that they put an emphasis on herbal medicine and the traditional values of medications compared to popping pills and all that stuff. What we see today is like we do have a sense that we're losing the old school ways of natural medications.
Which is, I think, mostly in America, because also here in Europe, of course, we also have like regular Western medicine. But if you would go back like to the medieval times or even further, like we also have traditional medicine, like with herbs and everything. Like Hildegard von Bingen, who has like a lot of who's still like now a lot of books mostly to commercialize the stuff that are like sold, but Chinese traditional medicine is not that far away from European traditional medicine. But of course, somebody would be, and like I have to say it like that, somebody would be stupid to neglect like aspirin, etc. Like stuff. It's really it really works. And says now this is all shit, or just make it like traditionally you also need a good balance, and this is something that I think it's very American specific, that you take a pill for everything. like I'm like taking a pill for something.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what was the other things that stood out for you with the movie?
The soundtrack is one of the best ever. I also have the soundtrack on CD. Like when I was a teenager, first was the movie. The first thing it was, I went to the internet and looked where I can buy the soundtrack and ordered the soundtrack. The theme is so epic, it goes into your blood, and when you see the fights and the scene comes on again, it's just perfection.
I agree. The one thing I do before I go live or before I get back here, I was like, I check to see if the theme is copyrighted, because I'll be like, I would love that theme to be the background, and then I'm like, it's copyrighted, so I ain't gonna bother.
Yeah, because I actually really hope that we could have the theme in the background.
Yeah, I'll be wanting some of them themes in the background, but I was like, I'm not gonna.
Yeah. It's like we don't wanna be like Biggie and live stream the Super Bowl stream. And get punched.
One thing I give Biggie credit, he don't give a damn. He's gonna have his music playing in the background regardless.
Yeah,
he don't care. Props to Biggie on that, man.
Yeah, YouTube has nothing on Biggie. Like
they ain't not gonna stop him.
Yeah, doesn't work for me, brother.
Yeah. And Yeah, I really enjoyed this film, and like you said earlier, we definitely gonna have to do a stream on the second film.
Yes, and
So
maybe
if I could
we'll
get,
talk again about the first one a little bit, but the second one is. I really wish we both had the time to also watch it that week. Sadly, very busy week,
yeah,
and I mean, also let's face it, like the first movie takes a lot of time to watch and then also a lot of time to comprehend. If you
yeah,
don't just view it as a martial arts movie, but if you really want to let this movie unfold like its true potential, you have to think about the Chinese culture and also the situation in Hong Kong when the movie was done. So it's a masterpiece, and
yeah.
I'm so happy that Eureka did a worthy addition. And it's a widely known movie, but I think the movie is still not widely known enough.
And it's a franchise. Like
Mhm.
it had what four of the movies had Jet Li, and then you had two other movies.
Yes.
Starring another actor. His name not coming to my mind, but like even those movies, they're not as good as the Jet Li films, but there's a little entertainment quality in them. Now I do want to talk about the Wire setup. Like I feel like this movie did it the absolute best, followed by the second film.
Yeah.
But I remember being young, I was not as big on the Wire style of kung fu. I was more of a traditionalist. I like my kung fu grounded.
I love the Wire stuff.
But when you start doing the Wire stuff, it starts to look a bit ridiculous sometimes.
It always depends. I'm a huge fan of it.
And another thing I always felt, it's more artsy. It's like an art flow.
Yeah.
I can appreciate the fact that the way they do it and how they do it, it has a art look and feel to it with how they do their movements and with the wire and all that. But that's how I felt about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like it was such a fun movie, but it felt very artsy with how they did their fight scenes.
It wasn't a Dumper Ang Lee, I think, and it's very artsy. Yeah. But I absolutely love Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. This movie is such a fantastic message. I mean, I love the Wire stuff as a whole. Like one of my most favorite Hong Kong movies franchises is A Chinese Ghost Story, where you have like this perfectly combination of kung fu, horror, and wires. So far, of course, there's a lot of movies that never made it outside of Hong Kong, maybe. But so far, I've never seen a kung fu movie that bored me.
No, that's the thing. Like every movie I've watched, I was like, it constantly keeps your attention. And these movies do a great job at building suspense and building up to that epic fight scene. Like when Yim's character was introduced, and you see him again later on when Foon joins him, and
he's also not the major villain.
Yeah, you start to realize like, oh, he's gonna have a showdown with Wei Hung, and you're looking forward to it because you need that person to give the challenge to the main character, and he was the perfect one.
Absolutely, I love the genre, and like Damien mentioned, Jet Li's Hero is also a movie that we're gonna talk about in the future, for sure. I mean, you can talk about the whole filmography of Jet Li.
Black Mass come to mind too. I love that film.
Yeah, I think I still also have that one on DVD down to the others, and also like the Swordsmaster trilogy. Which also they're releasing now again on Mediabook, probably.
I remember watching the Swordmaster trilogy, like loving that film.
Yeah,
those are some good films. But Once Upon a Time in China is like top tier, a masterpiece. That it keeps you entertained, and I think the comedy elements is it holds up well.
Yes.
One thing about these films is if these films were done in an Americanized way, it would have been overdone, cringy. It's like I just want to watch the serious stuff because the comedy stuff is just turning me off. But they know how to do their comedy well and integrate it into a serious tone film.
There's also a movie we have to talk about in the future, which actually I think is a movie that a lot of people hate or don't forget about nowadays. But I absolutely love for American movie is The Big Hit.
Man, I can't even remember that one, but I probably seen it, but now you make me want to look it up and check it out again.
Yeah. I just recently rewatched the movie. I laughed it when it came out, and it's like it's fantastic because it was like a lot of homages to Asian cinema.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with homages. If done right, it could be well done. But yeah, I really enjoyed this film, and I'm looking forward to when we talk the sequel sometime in the future.
Yes, for sure.
It has to be talked about.
Yeah, I think, and this is that next week we're off.
Yes, next week there will be no show. I have a little sleep study, so I have to do that. So I won't be able to make it to the next week. But the week after, we plan on doing something that me and Santa Mason been wanting to do for a long time, and I know she's been on the hiatus, but we're gonna talk about it, and I'll send the invite her way if she wants to join. But we're gonna talk about the 2 Raid films.
Yeah, otherwise you just have the European here without boobs.
look who's joined us.
Hey, Jeff. That's actually something interesting. How Jeff, do you know how Wong Fai Hung is like viewed by American Chinese people? That would actually be an interesting topic.
Yeah. But we're gonna talk the Raid in 2 weeks. Both films.
That's gonna be epic.
And we're gonna talk about the ridiculousness. I mentioned how Wire Kung Fu when I was younger, I didn't really like it as much. But we're gonna talk about the Raid and how these guys must be on some super painkillers for them to constantly beat each other up and withstand it.
How influential the Raid was to finally give a decent interpretation of Daredevil.
Yeah, yes. But we'll be back in 2 weeks talking the Raid.
That's gonna be epic, but tonight is not the end. Now, but wait, there's more.
That's right. Of course, Biggie Shaq does his Comic Collector Club every 2 weeks. It returns tonight. And we have our guest, my man, BV. Will be on the show tonight.
Yeah, you will see me in a different outfit later on.
And he's like screw time zone. I'm gonna be on the Comic Collector Club.
Yeah. And I hope everybody has Bock auf Bratwurst.
Bro, did you see Wrestling Bios? He on the episode with the Dancing Fools are together.
Yeah. The best tag team in WCW.
Bro, they dropped the ball.
Oh, yeah, I fucking miss WCW. I can so I'm very happy today to be on Biggest channel, and like I said, it's like gotta later wear something different.
Yes.
A little bit more German.
Hey man,
it's not a uniform this time.
It's gonna be a fun show for sure, and I'm definitely looking forward to being there. So looking forward to having you on the show tonight, bro.
In how many hours is it again?
Huh?
In how many hours is it again? I think he said 11 his time.
Well, it'll be three hours from now.
3 hours from now is good because I was like, do you have time to sleep in between? Now 3 hours I can survive and then sleep later.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for joining us for this great stream we had talking about Once Upon a Time in China. We didn't make it as epic as we could. Like we could have talked for another hour about this film.
But I'm pretty sure we're gonna also talk a little bit more about the first one again when we do the second movie in the future.
Yes. So I want to thank Sleepy Reader.
Hey, Shout for Comics.
Thank you for that awesome art piece you did for me. you're doing a great job with these. If you could do VV, you know, you gotta have a sword and barbarian style.
A sword and a sword-long cock and
Biggie, Shaq, Jeff.
yeah.
Thanks to everybody who showed up. Want to see anybody else? That was it. Oh, Kenneth Bird, shout out to you. So thanks everybody for showing up for the stream.
And don't miss Biggie's show later.
Exactly. Make sure you tune in tonight on Biggie Shaq's channel, Comic Collector Club.
It's gonna be wunderbar.
Whatever number he says it might be the 100th episode. And I'm like, wait, we had 100 already? Don't matter.
Yeah, it's
Biggie can jump number.
Yeah, I think it's like Marvel's legacy number.
Yeah. But make sure you join us tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. You know, VV will be on there and a couple other people. We're gonna have a
3 fucking AM, something like that, or 2 or 3 fucking AM. So, yeah.
So we're gonna have a great time. So with that in mind, this your boy Sean, VV. Have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Stay savage, San Diego.
And we got an invite next time. Here
Sweet.
we go. Here we
Deal,
go.
Jeff. Deal.
We'll definitely set that up in the future. Later, y'all.